The story starts about a year ago. My friends got me these jungle boots for my birthday. Back then, they were just a cool gift, something I tossed in the corner, figured I'd use them someday. Next thing I know, I'm about to board a flight to the Amazon for 4 days of complete disconnection, 50 kilometers of walking, and 3 nights spent in my hammock. Finally about to put these bad boys to the test, except I wasn't. But we'll get to that part in a minute. The first thing that strikes you about the Amazon while you're flying over it is the sheer scale of it. From Bogota to Leticia, which is about a 2-hour flight, over half of that is spent flying over the Amazon. When I touched down in Leticia, I actually had about an hour or two to kill, so the taxi driver suggested that we took a trip into Brazil, which is right beside Leticia. So we drove into Brazil for some ice cream. We just got some ice cream because it's super hot, and we're about to get the boat to Macedonia. From Leticia, it was about an hour and a half boat ride to Macedonia, which is an indigenous community just up the river. From the boat, we walked to the last house at the back of the community with literally the jungle and the back doorstep. There we had a little bit of lunch and made some final preparations for the trip. Now let's get back to these boots. Before we even started, my guide took one look at the boots and shook his head. Not good for this terrain, you need rubber boots, he said. I didn't love the idea. These boots had made it halfway across the world with me, but fine, I swapped them out. An hour later, as we hiked deeper in, my guide casually mentioned to me that on a recent trip into the jungle, a snake came for him, wrapped around his leg, and before he could shake it off, bit him just below the knee. I looked down at my borrowed rubber boots, and suddenly I wasn't so attached to mine anymore.
Sure. One sure. Un poco mojado. Mi familia quiere tomar videos. Porque no, y mi novia. Y sí, porque no normalmente toma, porque no tengo Instagram o nada. Porque eso es para tuyos. Oh, rough, right. First 2 or 3 hours, probably 2 or 3 kilometers done. So humid here, so hot. My face is burning. I don't know if it's from the sunburn or hopefully not mosquito bites. Could be the mosquito repellente, pero be good to get into my hammock and hopefully sleep a little bit. But first, yeah, good first day. Saw a tarantula, a frog, monkeys, yeah, beautiful. Juancho used his t-shirt to tie.
The guides have basically set up these little half-made huts in the jungle, pre-prepared, and literally within about 15 minutes this was all set up with a hammock and a fire going. So the first camp was just outside another community called El Vergel. We didn't see anyone there, but we're about 5 kilometers from Macedonia at this point. The next morning, when it stopped raining, we set off further into the jungle towards the camp for night 2. A lot of the hike was quite flooded, and we had to cross these little rivers where conveniently there was trees fallen. But the guides helped me with these, they called them uchima, I think is ticuna for stick, which really helped for balance.
Benissimo.
So how did I get water out here in the jungle? I got a Grail Geopress water filter, so we just filled the water from the river,
poured it into the filter, and then you just press down like an AeroPress coffee maker. And this worked so well. I wasn't thirsty at all during this trip. I drank as much water as I needed. The locals, they just drink the water straight from the river, and their immune system's so strong that it doesn't matter. But yeah, I actually gifted these guys the filter because it's so expensive to get things delivered in the jungle, and this will really help these guys with other tourists who come. It'll save them from having to carry liters upon liters of water for them. I wish I got more footage of Juancho and his ninja machete skills, because there's so many bits that you just couldn't get through without his trusty hand smashing through and creating a path for us. ¿Qué es el nombre de ese lugar? Hotel Mata Mata. Hotel Mata Mata. Day 2. So after another 15 kilometers hiking, we made it to Hotel Mata Mata. To be honest, I probably overpacked and my bag was super heavy. It was about 15 kg, and yeah, it was super tough. Thankfully, Naranja helped me carry my bag for part of the hike. For the remainder of the trip, we used Hotel Mata Mata as a base when we ventured further into the jungle. That way we didn't need to carry as much stuff. It probably goes without saying that Hotel Mata Mata is not a real hotel. These guys have built it with their bare hands, and they plan on extending it and making it even more comfortable for guests in the future. Yes, I know after all I've said it's kind of stupid to be walking through here barefoot, but I was extra careful and I just love being barefoot. The hippie in me just loves to be grounded. Hotel Mata Mata is conveniently situated right next to this natural swimming hole, which was super nice, and the water is just really nice and cold. The guys waited until I was in it before they told me that it's a very popular spot for caimans and crocodiles. ¿Hay piranhas aquí? No. No. Solo crocodile. All of that walking and swimming got us pretty hungry, so the guys started to make some fishing rods out of sticks from the jungle and a bike brake cable, I believe. Apart from the multiple mosquitoes buzzing around, it was pretty peaceful to just sit and fish for a while. I got plenty of nibbles from the piranhas, but unfortunately I didn't get a full bite on the hook. But luckily these guys are experts and they caught my lunch for me. I'd be lying if I said I wasn't a bit nervous about eating food straight from the Amazon River, cooked by a couple of locals. But I don't know if it was just the lack of food over the last day or so, but this piranha, and I think Lisa is the other fish, was absolutely delicious. Naranja is a really good cook. We basically just had the fish fried in oil with rice and salt. After eating a late lunch, I decided to just go off on a quick walk on my own, just to help digest the food and become more aware of the surroundings a bit. But within, I don't know, 2 or 3 minutes of walking, you look all around and it is so easy to get lost. Without these guides, I would be pretty screwed. It just made me really appreciate the knowledge they have of the area. I thought when I was recording this that these were cordyceps, the ones from David Attenborough's show of them growing out of the insects like zombies. But thanks to old trusty ChatGPT, I was able to identify them as the just as gross sounding dead man's finger. The next morning we got even more lucky with the fish, and by we I mean Naranja and Juancho, because I still couldn't figure these primal fishing rods out.
Un sábalo. Charlie, hoy vas a comer sábalo asado.
Sí.
El sábalo asado.
Wow.
Sábalo, tiene limón.
Tiene dientes.
Tiene el arroz. Arroz.
Wow. Necesito compartir eso. No es solo para mí. This was probably the best meal of the entire trip. Sábalo, fresh lime and rice with a little spice mix that I brought from Medellin. After a delicious lunch, we set off towards the centre without our heavy bags and with a freshly sharpened machete. This is normally done not only just to clear your own path, but also to mark a way back in case you get lost. We found these blue and yellow macaws that were eating the decaying bark from inside the trees. And now I'll take you on a little food tour of fruits of the jungle.
Marañón.
Marañón. This is marañón. In English, it's the cashew apple. It tastes a bit like a sweet custard tart, and apparently a cashew grows inside it as well.
Coconut, pequeño.
Este es coco.
¿Sí?
Coco de la selva. Que
Ah,
es por acá. ¿Quieres probarlo?
gracias.
Not much really needs to be said here. This is just a very, very small coconut. And I've saved the best to last. This is macambo. It's a cousin of the cacao, and
Wow.
yeah, this tasted
Oh,
amazing.
Oliva.
Sort of like popcorn, creamy, chocolatey type taste. Without our bags, we managed to make it an extra 5 kilometers in, so the furthest point we got was 25 kilometers. At this point, I realized I was probably as far from home I've ever been in my life. And then, all of a sudden, the rains came. I've never seen rain like it. This was maybe 1 hour of non-stop. As we say in Northern Ireland, full-on power shower. The guys quickly made an emergency shelter, and we sat in there for a little bit before making the decision to just get drenched and get back. A lot of the river crossings that we took on the way out weren't available, so we went a different way back and just went straight through the river and crossed like this. When we got back to camp, we were surprised by Debbie and his brother Nelson from earlier in the video, who walked for 5 hours to come see us that day.
Hola, esta es el hombre del el negocio. Organizar mucho para mí. Él es Debbie.
Hola, ¿qué tal, chicos? Como ya le viene diciendo el amigo Charlie, mi nombre es David Meléndez Peñas. Soy el que está encargado de la logística, de traerle acá a ustedes a la selva. Y tengo mis amigos acá, mis cuñados, diga, que son guías. Ellos son los que se están encargando de traerle aquí a los turistas a conocer la selva. Entonces, chicos, mi recomendación es a que me visiten mi página. Me encuentran como Aventuras Amazónicas. Y ahí le voy a estar dejando el link, el número de teléfono. Y ahí pueden venir a conocer estos lugares, como pueden mirar el Amazonas. Y pues, chicos, no se olviden de llegar y visitarnos. Estamos aquí para hacer estas actividades que está haciendo el amigo Charlie.
Muchas
After
gracias.
a couple hours of catching up, drinking coffee, the boys
Ciao,
headed
chicos.
back to Macedonia. And coincidentally, a couple of
Sick.
hours after this, on their way home, they had a similar encounter with a brown snake, where Nelson saved Debbie from getting bitten with his machete. And just like that, it was all but over. My 3 nights in the jungle was almost finished. I just needed to make it back from camp. The guys had actually been up all night trying to catch something to bring home to their families. Unfortunately, they got no sleep and no catch. I actually didn't realise that this was recording at the time, but as we were walking back, you could tell the guys were just absolutely knackered and they really wanted something to bring home to their families. They'd been away for 4 days and they were expected to bring back something. But with the sounds that we were making when we were hiking back, it was very unlikely that we wouldn't scare away anything that was in our paths. Then Pancho saw something. He whispered to us to be quiet and he went ahead. With 1 bullet in his gun, he got what he was looking for, and so did Naranjo. As difficult as it is for these guys to take a life, and for me to witness something like that, the bird pajuil is not endangered, and it can feed their whole family for a few days.
Algo bueno para nosotros, para el alimento de nuestras familias.
Entonces nosotros por eso cazamos estas aves para llevar el alimento a nuestros hijos y a nuestros hogares.
There was flooding the whole way back, so our trip took a lot longer. And obviously we didn't want to get our bags wet by walking through the river like yesterday. So the guys created these little bridges for us to cross. Honestly, the ingenuity these guys had just was so impressive.
Los últimos pasos en la selva
Ya llegando a la
con
civilización.
Naranja y Juancho. Siento como un borracho.
Has caminado ya 5 horas.
5 horas a volver a Macedonia. Las gallinas, casas. We made it. We made it.
There we have it, folks. 4 days off grid, no comforts, just me, 2 guides and the jungle. Despite how fun it looks in this video, it was easily one of the hardest things I've ever done physically and mentally. 50 kilometers, 64 mosquito bites later, I was very sore, itchy, but extremely grateful. Can't wait for the next adventure, but I promise Mum it's not going to be as crazy as this one.